I hate this part. There it is. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cubist. My name is Bill Corey. I am the Cubist, and tonight we are joined by Jim Felli of Devious Weasel Games. Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys tonight?
Excellent, excellent. And of course, our fantastic panel of Cube folks, Miss Kimberly Revia. Hello, Kimberly.
Hi.
Hi.
You've never been on this show before.
I'm new here.
Oh boy.
I don't like the video to capture me, so I try not to speak the first 60 seconds.
Well, normally we start with you giggling, and it always starts out on you. All right.
That's my point.
And we have Mr. Patrick Hillier with us. Hello, Patrick.
Hey.
Thank you for keeping your clothes on today. We appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Despite
you do it one time. It's like 90 degrees in my basement. I'm ready to do that.
So that's why you were naked? That's not okay. Buy an air conditioner, Patrick. That's a better choice. So,
okay.
All right. Tonight, we the name of the episode is Bemused and Bewildered. We are talking about unusual or unique themes in games. And Jim is a fantastic guest for that. Devious Weasel Games publishes, I would argue, some of the most unique themes that we have in modern gaming. And so, Jim, this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about that. But first, before we get into our main topic, as we always do, let's talk about the stuff we have been playing lately. And we are going to start with Kimberly, who I know hates me for this, but you got the most votes for a single game out of all of us. So
see that cat back there trying to knock down the folding chairs?
There are pets going crazy. Jim had the same issue earlier before we got started.
It's a new thing my cats do every time I go on Cubist. They don't ever come in here unless I'm playing a game or trying to Cubist.
There you go.
Jerks. Okay, so I took a Twitter poll, per usual, and Genties won significantly. So we'll talk about that.
Please do.
Yeah, that's my favorite part, Bill.
Wait,
all right.
Do it. I believe in you. We're ripping off the Band-Aid, Kimberly. You get it out of the way, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Sure. Genties is designed by Stefan Rizhaus.
We nominated Patrick the official mispronouncer of names. So if you ever have a name you're not sure how to pronounce, just toss it to him.
Okay.
Patrick.
I wasn't prepared for this. Sorry.
Oh. It is published by Spielworks. It's listed as a Civ game. I don't agree with that.
What game are you talking about? Sorry.
Genties. G-E-N-T-S.
Genties. Oh,
yes.
like gents.
Probably butchering that as
like gents, but with an E, yes.
Yes.
Gents with an extra E. And if I'm mispronouncing that, that's 100% Matthew's fault.
That's our thing. It's cool.
It's fine. I do not really agree that it's a Civ game. That is a very pasted on theme. It is more action selection, and there's a neat time variant where every action you take will have either 1 or 2 hourglasses on it, which literally take up spaces on your board. So you start off with, I think it's pronounced with a hard T. I should not read the chat. Well,
yeah, no. You just talk. We'll read the chat.
Yep. You start off with a fixed amount of spaces, and you will place either your action tile. Each time you take a turn will go there, as will the time allowed from it. So it will be 1, 2, or 3 hourglasses, and you have to take them accordingly. So you can fill up your board really quickly and be out of actions for the round. Or you can put a 2 hourglass on one side, and then next, instead of clearing it from the board at the end of the round, you have to flip it back over to 1. It just basically degrades instead of taking up 2 spots the first time. And it definitely makes the game, I think, the time aspect of it, because it's a lot of time management, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You have to decide. You start off with 6 places, I believe. I'm probably incorrect. And there are ways that you take special actions. You're completing cards to gain points. It's fairly basic, easy teach. It's solid, though. Enjoyable. Okay. Would not consider a Civ game, but enjoyable nonetheless.
I can't even find it at the Geek. How do you spell it?
Gents.
Yep.
It's the Geek lists it as a 3.25 on the weight scale.
There it is. Okay.
A little bit heavier than average. Would you agree with that?
It's not particularly heavy, but I guess.
Okay.
You're basically planning out how to work your cards that you're purchasing and making them stack together.
I like it. Netters says it's Spanish. It's gentes.
Yeah, that works for me.
That would work as well. It's according to the description, we're going to end up spending more time talking about the damn name of the game than how the game itself actually works. According to the BGG page, it's a Latin plural word for greater groups of human beings, like tribes, nations, or whatever. And a singular would be gens. Would be a gens. So probably gentis or gentis or something like that would be good. But okay, this is the same designer as Arkwright, according to Matt in the chat.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is so much lighter than Arkwright.
Right.
Well, that's not hard.
Yeah. I was going to say.
This is valid. I wouldn't consider it it's medium at best.
Okay.
It's my medium, I guess. That might be heavier for other people.
I was going to say, you trend a little heavy compared to maybe the average board gamer. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I do too. So
yeah, definitely.
So, okay. So, yeah, it pretends to be a Civ game, but really isn't.
Not really.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So on the Cubist scale, buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it.
I'd give it a play it.
Play it.
I personally like it, but I don't know that it's fairly dry and themeless. So
I think that might be Mr. Riesthouse's kind of jam, right? I mean, Arkwright is, we've talked to Clay on the show, and he even admits that it's kind of a spreadsheet of a game, right? So I mean, that makes
Arkwright is absolutely spreadsheet the board game,
right? So I mean, yeah, if that's what this designer does, then that makes perfect sense. There you go.
Yes. Yep. It definitely won't be for everyone, but I enjoy it quite a bit.
All right, Jim, our special guest. I was going to make you go first, but I wanted to throw Kimberly under the bus because it's fun for me.
Thank you. I love you too.
I love you. You're the best.
And she did it with such aplomb.
Yeah, she did great. See, she's way better at this than she thinks she is. That's a crushed heart.
Something in there is a heart. Matt always tells me I do that wrong.
Nice, Jim. You've been working on a new game for Devious Weasel, right?
Yes, that's correct.
You want to tell us anything about it?
Sure. So this is a new game called Dur, the Lesser Houses. It is similar to Bemused at one level, where you are playing lesser houses, the lords of lesser houses, struggling to become a greater house. So the winner of the game gets great house status. It's similar to Bemused in that you are using suspicion and scandals to weaken other houses and drive them into villainy or disrepute. The difference is in Bemused, the draw comes before the play to force you to have some anxiety. And in this, the draw comes afterwards so that you can plot your actions.
Okay.
And there are additional event cards which allow you to do things like blackmail your opponents and have sabotage going on and things of that nature. So it's a 4 to 6 player game again. Artwork is in, prototype is running along, doing final card design now. Hope to have it released by Origins.
Nice. Perfect. I feel like allowing you to rate a game that you designed and are publishing and definitely want people to buy is probably not going to be particularly effective, but it sounds interesting.
I'm going to rate it on your scale as play it.
You're rating it as a play it. Okay.
Yes.
Fair. That seems fair.
Because I know that I have a tendency to make games that people who like them a lot, and they don't appeal to a broad audience. Okay. So what I'd ask people to do is try it 2 or 3 times. It's a 15 to 30 minute game. Mm-hmm. If you like it, carry on with what you will, but I'm not going to tell anyone to buy something.
That's first off, that's really cool of you as a publisher. We talk with a fair number of designers and publishers as media creators and whatever, and so we're sort of used to publishers that being like, well, of course I think you should buy whatever game I make. It's kind of refreshing to talk to somebody that is like, my games are not going to be for everybody, and that's okay. I give it a fair shot and see what happens. That's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Very cool. Very cool. We're going to talk more about Bemused maybe later on in the show because you were kind enough to send me a review copy. I think Kimberly also has a review copy of it. And so, yep, exactly. Oh, see, and she was smart and brought it into the room. I was going to pull a Patrick and try and figure out a way to have it on my backdrop, and I couldn't.
Look at how much they look like each other.
I know, right? See,
I'm going to wear it over my face later.
It was mostly just the evil that. I'm sorry. Wait, but so there you go. All right, so we'll come back to that one in a little bit. I stole Kimberly's idea entirely this week, and I threw a poll up on Twitter as well and asked people what they wanted me to talk about. And they voted for Keyflower.
That's what I voted for.
Yep. Oh, you did too? Okay, there you go. So Keyflower, when did it come out? 2015? Why did it?
It's older than that, isn't it?
2012. Wow, God, it's that old.
Yeah.
Okay, 2012. Sorry. Yeah, 2012 Richard Bree's game, of course, because it's in the Key series, so they're all his deal. Although he co-designed this with. Wait, hang on. Who did he co-design this with? Patrick, official mispronouncer. Looking at him. You're terrible at this. You got to get on the stick here, man.
If you can't read it, it's pronounced Smith.
There you go. Yes. So I played this.
Pronounced Genties.
Genties. Okay. he's one game behind. This is like the 7-second delay on live TV, so that way in case somebody says a bad word.
Hey, at least I didn't say.
Hey, I would know nothing about that, Patrick, Bill, whoever you are.
Nice.
Meanwhile, back on Earth.
Are we still talking about Keyflower?
I'm trying really hard. Okay, so Keyflower is a 5-year-old game that somehow I have only played. I played it for the 3rd time this weekend at the Mini Hoopla outside of Janesville, Wisconsin. I had played it for the first time probably when it came out. And then I just never played it again until about a month ago when Eric Buscemi, occasional co-host of this show, said that he wanted to play. And so we tried it and he kind of reintroduced me to it. Then I played it again this past Saturday morning. And this is probably, of all the games I've ever talked about on my show, this is probably the toughest one for me to form an actual opinion on. And I say that because I have no idea in 3 games what the hell I'm doing. Like, I know how to do things. I understand the mechanics of the game. 3 games in, I still don't know why I want to do almost anything besides the most superficial stuff, right? Like if you win a tile and then you upgrade it, it's worth points. Well, that's great, but I have no idea which tiles I should be valuing over which other tiles and how to figure out when, that I need a whole bunch of meeples. I mean, and so for people that haven't played this, meeples in this game are a currency and you use them to bid on auctions and take actions with them. Is that the same for all of them? Because I've played one of the Key games and I don't know one. None of them do that I am aware of.
Then this must be the one I played. Okay.
This is the only one that I know of that does that.
It clearly made quite the impression on Patrick.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's several Key games and I wasn't sure what the difference was.
So Cathedral is one of the first ones in the series, and that is the one that I own and adore. Key Harvest is okay. Key Market I've never played. That's the super hard to get one. And then Keyflower, and then there's one. Aladdin's Dragons is technically one of the games in that series as well. It just got rethemed. So, but as far as I know, this is the only one where the meeples are the bidding things.
They should have a game called Kilogram.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you. I'm just gonna leave. I don't even need to be here.
Yeah, you're
my job.
I was gonna say puns for days. I like it. So anyway, the idea is that you play 4 rounds, you win these auctions, put the tiles into your tableau, and then theoretically upgrade them for points or use them to do more things or whatever. I've never, and I mean never, understood a game mechanically and had a harder time understanding it strategically than I do this game. 3 games in and I still have no idea why to hit specific buttons over other. And I don't know if I'm just getting old and my brain doesn't work as well as it used to, or if there's just something. What do you, Kimberly, you love this game, right? Like
I've played it once.
Oh, you've only played once. Okay. I'm sorry. So you played once, Patrick's played once. Jim, have you played this at all?
I think I've actually played it twice.
No,
just a long time apart from each other.
Okay. So Jim, no, you shook your head no? Okay,
no.
Got it. All right. I don't know. This might be one of the easiest games for me to rate because I think this is a play it if ever there has been one, because you should not buy this game blind. It is so opaque that you need to play this to know if this is a thing you're going to have any hope of understanding. My humble opinion. Now I also played this was my 3rd game, so I theoretically knew most of the mechanics, but the person that played the game, we played a 6-player game, which is its maximum player count, and we played with both of the expansions for it. like both of the expansion modules. So I kind of went in the deep end. So I feel like maybe it was, but I also was able to turn my brain off completely from one whole part of the expansion. Like I literally just ignored one thing, saying, you know what, I don't have the processing cycles to handle all of this, so I'm just not going to do that thing and ignore it. And I came in third, I think, out of 6. So I guess I did okay, but this is more opaque than Arkwright. It is maybe not heavier than Arkwright, but it is more opaque.
It's certainly not heavier than Arkwright.
No, it is not heavier than Arkwright, but I feel like it's just so, I don't know. It's a play it for sure. I think you should try it. It's cute. I love the Key series artwork. Like I love that art style in general. Yeah, I always like what they look like, but I don't know. All right. So anyway, Keyflower for me, a play it. I think you should definitely try it. But yeah, we'll talk. Yes, Tom. You add it to the list. You're the one that's probably keeping this list. Tom Chidester in the chat is writing down with me to BGG, and he's been making an informal list of 14 hours worth of stuff we need to talk about.
Oh, you guys are both driving. Are you driving together? I mean, yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's writing with me.
Is Molly driving too?
No, she's flying in the next day.
That's what I thought. Okay.
She is smarter than I am. There you go.
I mean, I will appreciate your car when you take me to the grocery store so I don't die.
Exactly. All right, Patrick, how about you?
Well, I had a little bit of free time to spend with myself, so I have been Terraforming Mars solo challenge. So I don't know if you guys recall before the expansion maps came out, I went through all of the corporations and won all of the corporations on Terraforming Mars original boards. And then when the map came out, I just decided to try redoing it with the new boards. So I've done, I think, 3 so far this week on the Hellas side of the new expansion board. Yes, I know. Thank you, Matt, in the chat room. So I started with the beginning corp, which took a little bit of a challenge. That's kind of a hard one. I think you and I, Bill, have talked about that, because you don't have any sort of special advantage that helps you kind of leverage yourself into a win. But other than that, it's still doable.
You get that big wad of cards up front that you don't have to pay for and a ton of money, but then you're on your own. You know what I mean? Like you get a decent starting position and that's it. Yeah. Whereas all the other ones give you a sort of this is a thing I will be good at.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Gotcha.
And then I just randomly draw one out of my stack of cards and say, all right, here's the next one. I'm going to do it and figure it out until I play it, until I beat it, and then move on to the next one. I've got a little spreadsheet. It's a Google Doc, which I think I've shared publicly on Twitter, or if you ask me for it. It's just a place to keep track of them.
Maybe Patrick will be kind and copy paste that link, and I can put it in the show notes. So if you want to follow along. We can do that later. So, all right, Patrick. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you think that the new maps changed the solo play a bunch? Since we're specifically talking about playing it solo, does it feel like it changes the way you approach a solo?
Not as much.
I agree.
A little bit. There are some spots that are different. There's that one. There's one spot where you can go and grab 3 heat real quick if you want. And there's a couple spots with a little bit more titanium that I like, things like that. So,
right. Yeah, I agree. Well, we've talked about Terraforming Mars on the show a couple of times solo, but I think that this is one of those games where I think that it just works so well, both solo and multiplayer, that I think, and we've both yammered on almost ad nauseum about how much we like this game. So yeah. Is it still a buy it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm anxiously waiting the new cards
Venus
stuff
Next.
from the next Venus Next. Yeah, that'll be
fun. So
bets that Patrick and I are elbowing each other out of the way to get to the Stronghold booth.
I already pre-ordered it. That's when
I was going to say, yeah, I'm sure Patrick. Mm-hmm.
I think I did too, but I actually don't remember. So
yeah, that's one of the. I'm on their.
I should probably go check that before I get to BGG. Huh?
even if I got it, if I don't have it before BGG, I'll probably buy it at BGG.
That's what I was saying. I thought
I'm sure you can. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, he had the Mace game last year, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get into the main topic. Speaking of Mars,
I don't know. This is space is one of those themes that I feel like about 40% of the games that get made in the hobby are about, right? I mean, there's a ton
Currently,
of
right now, yeah.
yeah, it's been a real big deal the last few years.
Yep.
Specifically. And I think it's one of the reasons that I'm really excited to have Jim on the show is because we've had conversations off and on through our industry over the last few years about, you know, I mean, Tom Vassell of the Dice Tower was infamous about complaining about trading in the Mediterranean, right? And that was that became a catchphrase for a while for him. And, you know, we've 4.5 million zombie games, right? Farming suddenly was a real big deal.
Oh, farming.
You know, thank you, Uwe Rosenberg.
Uwe, yeah.
And we've had, you know, we've had 1 million farming games since Agricola came out. You know, I feel like there are a few of these themes. And then there's the generic, there's the super generic fantasy theme that feels like it gets pasted on a bunch of stuff too. So those are the 4 that I came up with. So when a game comes along that has a really unique theme, we all kind of stop and pay attention to it at least a little bit, right? Even if that theme is somewhat dry, like Arkwright, we just talked about a few minutes ago, is a weird theme, kind of, right? Like, I mean, the setting is familiar, but the theme itself is weird. And Jim, Devious Weasel games, the products that you've done, so we have Bemused, Shadows of Malice, and Zimby Mojo, all 3 of them, it would be pretty easy to argue, have really off the beaten path themes. Is that a fairly accurate way to describe it?
I like to think so, yeah.
I think I don't think I think it would be hard to argue with. So yeah, so you have a game that is about being a virtuoso that is a muse for other players. That's Bemused. You have a game about cannibalism, where everybody is a shaman of a tribe of cannibals, and you're trying to be right. And then you've got Shadows of Malice, which is a game about preventing a demon from gaining physical form and overrunning the world. So I mean, these are all, you know, about 3 as different as they can possibly be.
So I have to tell you, for those of you who had really weird grade school teachers, the Zimby Mojo game arose from the old song "The King of the Cannibal Islands."
I remember that.
You remember that at all?
I'm not familiar with this, and I'm concerned where you went to school.
The famous line, "Hokey Pokey Winky Wong, Polly Magoo Magoo Magong."
No.
It was the song that we sang in 3rd grade chorus. I'll never forget it.
All
It was
right.
the first school song we sang.
Jim,
we sang some weird songs when I was a kid. I don't remember that.
Jim,
No.
Yeah.
I've never had to ask a guest how old they are before, but how old are you? So how long ago were you in 3rd grade?
I was in 3rd grade many years ago, in the probably in the late 60s. So
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Yeah, I'm the tail end of the baby boomers guy.
All right, fair enough. Because
I was in 3rd grade when songs like that were not culturally misappropriate.
gotcha. Well, and I asked that because I'm a music professional. What I do for a living is I'm a DJ and karaoke guy and whatever. That's what I do. So when people come up with a song that they think, and then I'm like, I have no idea what that is. That I always, that's awesome. All right. So, but this was inspired by a theme you sang in school, or a song.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it was a song about this cannibal king who wanted to be the king of the Cannibal Islands, and so. Originally, that game was sort of a, how do you take a game where people manage their resources, but you can eat them, and you can get a lot of short burst power, but you pay in the long run because they're hard to spawn, those guys.
Reasonable.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Well, you know, so that was it.
It's like playing poker with poker chips, but your chips are potato chips, and you know you're eating your potato chips. But
okay, now see, this I've done. This I've done, except for M&M's.
So
yeah.
So make that analogy. But when you eat one of those potato chips, you get to pull a jack, or you get to pull a queen, right?
Right. Interesting.
But you only get to do it while you got that chip, and then it costs you a bunch of money to buy another chip.
Okay.
So the thing about Zimby is that I personally don't like spreadsheet games, and I don't like games where there's certainty in things.
Okay.
And I wanted these Zimbies to be sort of semi-inept little fanatic creatures. So I put randomness in all the effects, right? Yeah, you can throw that spell. It might do 1 point. It might do 2 points.
Okay.
People who don't like randomness don't like this game at all. People who think about riding this kind of surfing the randomness, I think tend to enjoy it. But I don't like games where anything's for granted, where anything's taken for certain. And so that's why I put in that game.
So deterministic stuff is not where your games tend to land. You tend to
no.
Okay.
No, I mean, I have a hard time, and this is not a slam on anybody by any means, but I have a hard time understanding the difference between a Euro game and a puzzle sometimes.
Sure. You're definitely not the only person to say that. It just depends on the game. Now, I personally, you know, we've started as a hobby to embrace the word omni-gamer, and I think a lot of people throw that around. I absolutely am that, because I am.
That thing on your wall behind you says that you are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wear that ribbon.
There's the proof.
For a reason. Well, but I wear it for a reason, because I have no problem playing games with randomosity and getting hosed in a half an hour. And I also have no problem playing Arkwright and Through the Ages. You know, it's, I land squarely in the middle, but I know a lot of people that just could go the rest of their lives without ever playing. There is a company called Dice Hate Me Game, right? I mean, you know, Food Chain Magnet proudly declares no dice included in this box. You know, there's an entire segment that's not what they do. So,
and I think there's probably a strong anchoring bias for people in terms of the first games that they played that they enjoyed. And we know that the first games you play, it's not just the game, it's who you're playing it with and the circumstances around it. And for me, the first games that I played out of the standard tropes that you play as a family, like Trouble or chess or something like that, was Dungeons and Dragons, back when Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was just being released. And the people that I played with, we really used randomness quite a bit. Now you could mitigate it, but you couldn't get rid of it. And I really like that, which is no matter how tough you think you are, the universe can still mess with you.
Yep. Yeah, I come from a D&D background myself, so I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Is that influenced very early. One of the first, I guess, more tabletop games that I really got into was BattleTech, which at the time was a very unique theme as well. That was a game, and that's a game all about randomosity too, right? Like you roll crappy, and it doesn't matter how awesome you were. If those dice hate you today, you're screwed. So So, okay, but let's kind of get back to...
Before we leave D&D, I got to interject here.
Please.
I heard somebody on like news or something, and they named their kid Thaco, and I thought, am I the only person who knows what that means?
Cruel. No.
I know.
I don't know what that means.
Okay,
you know what that means, Kimberly? All right, cool.
Explain it. No, explain it to me. I don't know. I don't know.
It's an acronym. It means to hit armor class 0.
0, yeah. It was... God, what was that, in 2, 3?
That was AD&D.
Was that just
no, that was after AD&D.
Yeah, that was in 2. That was in 2. I can't remember which version, but
so I have an interesting D&D story for you. Also, a colleague of mine he works in alliance management, where he works on setting up deals with major companies. And I asked him one day, "What is your strategy when you meet people?" And he looked at me right now and said, "I always lead with a charm spell."
That's how you know you've got nerds around you. There's nothing.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so let's we are all over the map tonight. This is good. No, that's a good thing. I'm all right with that. But let's get back to this themes idea. We all know that there are these overused themes, but we also have seen, especially those of us in the social media that focus on social media, that there is occasionally severe blowback from specific themes when the theme itself. I'm sorry?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So like the most famous one that I can think of is Rococo. When Rococo came out, it is pretty universally lauded as a pretty solid Euro game, right? Like I haven't had a chance to play it personally, but
it's such a good game.
It's a great game from everything I hear. But when it first came out, it's a game about dressmaking, about being a dressmaker in a royal palace.
And before that was
Pret-a-Porter,
which is a good game.
It's not only making dresses, you're also making fancy suits.
Okay. but the word that got out was that it was about dressmaking. Is that was
people lost their damn mind.
Right, and people completely went nuts. And I just can't get into a game about dressmaking. And my response to that was always, but you can get into a game about farming, even though I guarantee that your city ass has never held a hoe in your life. Like, I mean,
don't talk about Kimberly that way.
Whoa!
Patrick Hillier.
Oh, my
H-O-E.
I'm gonna come over there to BFE, and
that's it. BGG is going to become violent all of a sudden. This will be good.
I mean, it was always going to be a little bit.
That's fair. That's fair. But I mean, it's that weird disconnect, right? Like, for some reason, and you can argue that there's a certain level of sexism that plays into that, and weird patriarchal nonsense that plays into that. But it's not just that either. Like, there are some themes. Let's face it, zombies are so overused at this point that if a zombie game comes out, many of us are going to be like, nope, that's
roll
not
our eyes a little.
Yeah,
So I'm working on a zombie game.
Are you really?
But let me tell you the twist. I am pissed at zombie games. I hate most of them. So my thought was, if there were a zombie apocalypse, they wouldn't last more than one summer. Because by the end of the summer, their bones would be picked clean by birds. And they'd rot and have no connective tissue to be able to move.
They would just be piles of bones later on going.
Exactly. So it's going to have a bunch of problems with the heaps of decomposing material spreading plagues and diseases that way. But
okay.
So that's my beef with zombies. And so
for our listeners / viewers, just a quick background is that you used to be a professor, right? And now you're a scientist. Like, that's what you do as your day job. So we should not at all be surprised that the idea of bodies that should be piles of barely functional bones would be the thing that you would think of, because this is dumb. Let's never mind the fact that they're dead, and so they shouldn't be walking around in the first place. The reality check is that they should rot.
Exactly.
Oh, sure. Okay. That makes sense.
You need something to make people interested in the play.
Okay. Gotcha. So you get these themes that get, and now, like, Dead of Winter is a really good game. I mean, it's a little bit of social deduction and a weird trader co-op thing, whatever. But because it was zombies, there was an entire segment of the gaming population that's like, I don't need to play this.
Right.
And that's unfair too, right? Like, there are.
Correct.
But what's weird though is that there are some themes that are the most plain Jane things in the world, and we don't seem to care. Like, look at the
farming. Farming is a very good example of that.
Yeah.
I think.
Nobody, literally in 2017, none of us give a crap about farming. Well, not none of us, but most of us don't give a crap about farming, right?
Right.
But somehow we are more than willing to embrace, full on the next Uwe game, even though it's almost certainly going to have at least something to do with farming. So what is it about specific themes do we think causes people to engage or disengage?
Well, is it the theme or is it the reward mechanism? So people talk about this in video games, and they give you small rewards consistently to keep you feeling good about yourself and keep you playing. So is it the reward mechanism of intermediate crops that you're getting or intermediate things you're producing that you then sell that escalates, or is it actually the theme of the game itself? So if you took the mechanisms and put it into you're clipping things off of old hulks floating in space, would it be the same reward mechanism, and people would feel the same way about it?
Okay. And you might be right in a certain, and you're probably right to a certain segment of gamerdom, right? Because we have, Daniel Newman, who's been on the show, our podcast producer, he's pretty vocal and famous about not really caring about theme at all, as long as the mechanics behind it are good, right? So he'll play anything as long as the mechanics are good, and that's great. That is not me. I need at least a sense of why these things are linked together. And for me, that's the theme. I'm going to use your own words against
me. That's fine.
You said before that zombies don't make any sense because after one summer, all the connective tissue would be gone and it would just be a useless pile of bones. That's how a game without a good theme feels to me. If that connective tissue isn't there, I don't care about the rest of it. There's nothing to keep it moving. There's nothing to keep me. That's a terrible analogy. That sounded way better in my head before I started.
I am fully in agreement with you. I was just raising the question of why are these games popular? Is it because of the theme or is it because of the reward mechanism? I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Theme for me is number one.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't like the theme, I won't even look at the game. And I know that's silly and it's a strong bias, but that's why I have varied friends so that they can say to me, Jim, you screwed up. Take a look at it and try it.
Sure. Well, and that's important too, right? Is that we all have to have people that, you know, will be like, look, you're dumb. This is a good game. Give it a chance, right? Like Keyflower. I mean, Keyflower, I when I first played it, I remember being super confused, and then I just never sought it out because it hurt my brain too bad, and I didn't have anything to really, you know, it didn't have that hook. Look, Patrick and Kimberly, I want to get you guys involved in this too, because otherwise it's just been the two of us yapping back and forth.
Well, you know, one of the #1 games on the Essen hot list right now is Photosynthesis. Now, there's a really weird game.
Mm-hmm.
That came out of the middle of nowhere at Gen Con, and that's, I don't know, I think it's fun. It's not the greatest game, but I enjoy it. It's just kind of fun and different.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, who is often a co-host on the show, has said that he likes Photosynthesis, but that it's basically an abstract game. There isn't a theme.
Right, but the theme is what attracted me to it and got my wife to say, I want to play that because she's into plants and growies and.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so the theme is what got
growies.
You.
I like that word.
That's what architects call plants.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't just make that up to try?
No. When the landscape architects aren't around, that's what we refer to all the stuff that. They put around.
Like that you have your own derogatory slang for things that you didn't build.
Yes.
We didn't do it. It's a growy, whatever.
Oh, these growies.
Nice.
Yes. No, even Cottage Garden. I think there was a Twitter chat about that. So me and her and my mom stopped by a game store, and she saw Cottage Garden. She goes, "Oh my God, what is this? Why don't we have it?" And I was like, well, because, you know, we got Patchwork and then we got Barren Park, and did we really need a game of better? Yeah, what?
I said both of which do the same basic thing.
Right, exactly. Better. It's like, do we need 3 games that do the same thing? And, you know, but she's really stoked about little cats and pots and. You know,
it's adorable.
It's adorable looking, but it's $60, and I just wasn't thrilled about. You know, so
and it's a fairly polarizing game,
right?
Or at least it seems like it anyway. It seems like one of those games where people are either really into it or they're not. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of take us on a little bit of a tangent really fast here. I got into. I have said not as big of a tangent as some of the other ones we've been on. I promise. I'll get there. One of the games that I have used as a quote unquote gateway game. It's not really a gateway game, but I mean a game that I have used to introduce people to modern board gaming is Power Grid. Whenever I say that, people always go, "What? Why would you do that to somebody?" Because it's such a heavy game with the auctions and, you know what I mean, and lots of math and whatever. And what I always tell people is that it's because the theme of Power Grid is something that everybody understands. Everybody understands the idea of supply and demand with the resource market. Everybody understands networks and, you know, it being harder to build your network through the Rocky Mountains than it is the New England. You know, everybody gets the main parts of it, and so that theme provides a really easy entry point into understanding why you're doing things. It doesn't help you with how you're doing them, but it helps you understand why certain things would be better or worse than others. And so I think one of the things for me when I think about a theme is, does this theme help players understand the purpose of what they're doing? So like Keyflower does not, right? Like the theme
can.
I'm sorry?
I think it can help.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm saying good theme does. Like when a theme is properly applied to a game, it does help you bring you into this. And so, you know, I mean, that's what is an example? Have you ever had a game where the theme really was the thing that was that connective tissue, the thing that helped you get moving through the game? Or is that
I think that's the thing that Vlaja does well.
the thing that what? I'm sorry.
No, not Vlaja. Nope. I need a. Oh my gosh, is it Vlaja? Yeah. Kanban, and that's not who designed it.
No, that's
Vital.
yeah, that's
I
Vital.
think Vital does it well. Yeah, I had a mild stroke there. I think Vital ties in his theme pretty well, so it makes the game.
Sure, yeah, the gallerist and
Kanban. Kanban is an excellent.
Kanban.
I think Kanban really was much easier for me to grok than people made it seem like it would be.
Okay,
but I think that it's fairly intuitive.
But I think it makes them easier to play.
Feeds into that. Oh, it definitely does. Yeah, I think that the theme helps significantly in Vital's designs.
Yeah, I think it's important, and you can tell when a game was designed theme first versus theme was slapped on at the end.
Yeah, when a game is designed around a theme, it definitely has a different feel.
So one of the interesting things about theme is the designer can use that to manage expectations of the player, right? If I give you the theme and you understand what the pieces are and how they connect, that will manage your expectations on gameplay. The difficulty comes in some games where the theme is subject to such different interpretation by the players that they might not get it, which is why I think there's so many failures in the Lovecraftian theme games. Because everyone interprets that mythos differently, and those themes have common elements, but you can't just take for granted that people know them. And I think that's a weak point in a lot of IP games, like Star Wars games. They just assume you know what things are, and therefore will behave appropriately, and therefore I don't need to lay any theme on you because it's de facto there.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a common buy-in point, right? Like we at this point assume 40 years later that everybody has at least seen enough Star Wars to understand what a lightsaber is and a Jedi, and that Yoda is probably. I'm sorry, Kimberly. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm sorry that you're about to be disconnected. No, but I mean, themes like that, like IPs, have a buy-in point that comes along with it. Anytime you have an IP-themed game, you already have a market, because otherwise the IP would not be there, right? Like yeah, you get that point of access. What about for games where maybe the theme? So Ginkopolis got brought up in the chat room as a game that's a great game but has a pretty thin theme. I would actually argue that the theme is kind of awesome. It's just the game doesn't actually do squat with the theme, right? Like, I
didn't realize there really was a theme to Ginkopolis. So,
well, yeah, it's sort of like this: you're building a utopian society is the whole idea behind it.
Limited resources, and you're encouraged to build vertically.
Right. But I suppose from an architect, that the theme probably resonates a little better for you than it does for the rest of us. But the mechanics and the theme have basically nothing to do with each other, right? Like, I mean, you have little influence markers that are a currency and also go on the board, and you have, specific cards that you build out with. It doesn't make a darn bit of sense from a theme standpoint, but the game works. And the game is so unique that people are willing to overlook the fact that the theme means nothing. Whereas you get a game like Bemused that Jim designed, which is a game that relies pretty heavily on its theme, I would argue, right? That the idea is that you are a muse and you have your Gemina, right? It's Gemina, did I say that right? Now I'm panicking about saying things after the Genties debacle from the beginning of the show. Gemina, there we go. So your Gemina is another player at the table that is the focus of whatever, and then you're trying to manipulate that to get a little bit of extra points.
Secret thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the primary focus of the game, but it's an impetus to guide how gameplay is likely to go, right? Because you're trying to get things going in this direction or that direction or whatever.
Yeah, it's also said to be a trap.
I'm sorry, what?
It's also designed to be a trap.
Okay.
So the points that you get for fulfilling your secret with the Gemina
are very minor,
are rather small.
Yeah, yes. Compared to the
right. So if people become obsessed, as artists are wont to do, with pursuing that relationship, they could actually lose the game by foregoing opportunities to win by trying to get their goal with Gemina. So it's designed to be a bonus or a trap, depending on how you fall prey to it.
So we got it played 3 times over the span of the mini hoopla that I was just at, and in the 3 games, we had new players join us the second game. So we had a 4-player game, and then we had 2 6s after that. And what we discovered is that when the game was close, the goals mattered. When everybody was sort of on an equal playing field after that first game, where it was just this fast blowout, then when the game slowed down and it got to the point where things stayed close, it mattered more. And that feels like the natural evolution of what that game wants to be. Is it wants to kind of, you know, play out to a long finish, and then that be just the edge that came out. What?
Kimberly, you're right.
No, Kimberly covered her mouth as if I said something.
No. I'm just trying not to yawn.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry.
Okay. I thought I inadvertently
crash.
swore or something. That's the same face you made when you said the word that rhymes with duck a couple weeks ago. So I was confused.
I would never say something.
You said truck?
I know.
I did say truck.
It's terrible, mother trucker. Anyway, so yeah. So I mean, and that's interesting, right? That you literally built a thing into a game that you intended to pull focus. That's really cool. Do you expect players? And now I'm just genuinely curious. I screw the topic for a minute here. Do you expect players to pick up on that, or is that a thing that you intentionally don't tell them?
I don't tell them. So let me. I'm sorry, but I have to give a little of my philosophy to answer.
No, go for it.
So, I think that people. I don't buy games all the time when they come out. I like to buy a game and play it a lot. And the cult of the new is sort of not my market at all. I try to design games where I feel people spent their money on it. They work hard to get that money. They should get a lot of value out of it. So it should either have high replayability or a high level of nuance that you discover as you play it multiple times.
Okay.
So, you know, that kind of stuff, as well as sort of the phantasmas, the way to play the phantasmas, is stuff I think people will figure out after they play it 4, 5, 6 times. And by that time, then they're at the point where they can get those games going where the gems actually mean something at the end.
Okay.
So I try to give players rewards that they discover for continued play so they can get their money's worth out of the game.
That's interesting. We had in the second game that we played, somebody died like right away. There was, I don't know what happened, but everybody kind of ganged up on one player for a half minute, probably because he was being a smart aleck, and everybody was like, "Oh, watch this," and then just kind of crapped all over him, which is fine. And then he grumbled for about a minute until he realized how Phantasma's scoring worked, and then all of a sudden it's like, "Ooh, I can take everybody down with me," and suddenly it was a whole different side of the game that he sort of discovered. And full disclosure for the chat and listen, or for the chat room and people listening afterwards, Jim emailed me and stressed the fact that you need to play this game 2-3 times at least before I developed an opinion on it, because he implied that it definitely had more to give than would first meet the eye. And I would absolutely agree with that. If I had judged the game based on my first play only, I honestly would have been very nervous about tonight's show, because I would have been like, well, because the first play did not go well. It was a 4-player game, and I think that this game probably plays better at its bigger player counts anyway. I think it's better. It was much more enjoyable at 6 than it was at 4. But it definitely is a game that rewards replays, and which is something that in general we talk about all the time, right? I mean, that we want games to have more to give later on down the road. So it's interesting that you built that in, and that's sort of a core philosophy of how you try to design games. Now I want to go back and play Zimby Mojo. That way I can see that too, right? Because
so let me tell you 2 things about another trap for Bemused, and then something that is kind of important also. So one of the traps is the phantasmas. They do score by making more phantasmas. However, if you pursue that and try to make another phantasma quickly, you'll probably lose is the phantasmas. Because the way that
will end too fast.
Exactly. So they've got to temper that with weakening the other people and letting the other players kill each other off to make phantasmas for them. That's where that Gemini can come into play as a nice dread cannon. So once they start to flip, then you let them create the phantasms for you. And some people, that's sort of it's the problem of I'll give you one marshmallow now, or if you wait 10 minutes, I'll give you two.
Okay. That's interesting.
The other thing, go ahead.
No, I was just going to interject and say, Kimberly played this, what is it, yesterday, right?
Yeah,
to the table yesterday. And your group didn't click with you guys, right? If I recall. Yeah.
We only played it once so far, 4 players. I very rarely play with large groups. It's usually just Matt and I, or Matt and a friend or two.
Gotcha.
6 players definitely is not the shining player count. Sure. I mean, 4 players definitely is not. I have no doubt that it's significantly changed at 6 player, though. That was pretty obvious.
Sure. And I'm not trying to throw you under the bus or anything, Kimberly. I'm pointing that out specifically because we had talked before the show a little bit about how this was, it hadn't clicked for you as well as it did for my group. And my group was even still a little like, wait, I don't exactly know how this is.
Well, I think it requires table talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be incorrect here, but I think it probably requires more table talk than a lot of heavy gamer types like ourselves give to games usually.
Sure. Yeah, it does. It requires a lot.
It would benefit that. I think it'll go well in, keep it in the Granite Game Summit library because I'm sure I see how it appeals to other people.
I feel like this is,
and that time frame is perfect.
This might be like a 2 a.m. at BGG kind of game too. I'm actually thinking about packing it along because that would be a good middle of the night and everybody, you know what I mean? And because that's a good place. We always have a ton of people.
That's about the only time I table talk.
Yeah. Well,
really?
That's your table game.
Extreme sleep deprivation.
Yeah. So some of the nice table talk we've had are things like when you throw a dread on the thespian, right? You don't just throw a dread, you say, hey, remember that critic who despises you?
Oh,
gave him tickets to tonight's show. I hope you don't mind. And then you lay that dread card.
Okay. See, and that's an aspect that I never even
got.
My
brain just doesn't even do. I mean, that's
Yeah. So one of the things about Bemused, which I'm really kind of proud of, and that the artist I worked with, Tawny Pettit, did the artwork for the cards.
The art is beautiful.
She's very proud of, is that there are 3 males, 3 females, and 6 different ethnicities within the game.
Yeah, we actually noticed. That was one of the first things I noticed when we got the game set up last.
And part of that is to speak to, art knows no ethnic or gender barriers. It's everywhere. The other thing is that there are some Easter eggs in some of the cards. So, for example, the painter perceives the world through her art, so her eyes are closed, but the painting's eyes are open.
Right.
Exactly. The thespian takes on life from the roles that he plays, so he's almost black and white, except for the color coming off the mask on his hand and his face where the mask is approaching. So she put a lot of nice Easter eggs in, and that again is part of the theme that comes out of it. I think if you try the game and you try to take on the role of the character you're playing and think in their terms, and don't forget that those abilities are all barterable back and forth, it takes on a different life. But again, Bill, to what you were saying is, I fully recognize that people won't get it if they play it once or twice. They need to play it 3, 4, 5 times. Yeah. And that's a commitment. And I'm sorry I have to ask that.
No, that's all right. And again, thank you, by the way, Kimberly, for showing all the art. I had you presenting there for a minute, so that way everybody would get to see all 6 of them.
That's what the nervous face was.
Is that what that was? Right. No, and I appreciate, honestly, like I said, up at the top of the show, or at the top of the topic anyway, when you said, Jim, that you understood that your games weren't going to be for everybody and that was okay. It was more for people that could really get into it. I think you just spoke to that really well, and that's awesome. And I think Bemused, if for no other reason than by how gorgeous it is, it'll definitely get a certain segment that's really going to dig it. And I think that's awesome. So, all right. Thanks. Well, but we're going to do cheap plugs after our final segment of the show. Jim, you've been a great guest so far, and it's always a joy to have really smart people on the show, which is why we do what's called the rapid fire segment. So this is the part where well, no, not that rapid, sir. You got to at least wait. Let me ask questions. So here we go. In case you haven't seen this, how this works is we're going to ask you 5 questions. You have to answer with whatever the first thing is that pops into your head. No cheating and repeating the question back in order to buy yourself time, and no repeats. All right?
That
You get
sound good
nervous,
to you?
just yell random things, and it's okay.
Yeah, and you're totally okay with that. So, are you ready, Jim?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Jim, your favorite two-player game?
Pente.
All right. Your favorite worker placement game?
None.
Nice. A topic you wish a game would be themed around?
Parasites.
Nice. There you go. A game that you think could be turned into a really cool theme park? Oh, see what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a Arkham Horror.
Arkham. Oh, wow. Okay, there you go. And what color do you normally play?
I normally play black or red.
There you go. Very good, Jim. That was really smooth.
That's good.
That was remarkably quick for rapid fire.
There's zero panic.
I don't have many answers. It's just lucky that you asked the questions that I have answers to.
There you go. I love the idea of a parasite themed game. By the way,
Isn't that
I'm not
viral?
kidding. Huh?
Isn't that viral, that game that just came out?
Oh yeah.
Parasites and viruses are not the same thing, sir.
Oh, I don't know what.
I'm just throwing that out there. See,
that's
see, I can talk science too, Jim. Damn it!
Okay.
Every once in a
You're
while,
the
I can
man.
be smart.
I don't care what everybody says about you. You're damn cool.
Me neither.
Oh.
There is Tom Wam designed a game that was all about. It was at Snit's Revenge. Yeah, the Snit's Revenge had parasites. That's the only one I can think of that actually deals with parasites, and that's like 35 years old, so it probably doesn't count.
So
And I do
I've been
not
trying
want
to
to.
wrap my. I've been trying to wrap my head around a game where the player does not know what they are.
Oh, sure.
So
Sure.
difficult.
There you go. By the way, Patrick, did you like my pun in there? I wrote a pun into rapid fire specifically because I knew you were going to be here tonight.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Jim, if people wanted to know more about you and what you do and the games that you make, where would we send them?
So you could send them to a couple places. I sporadically spew out garbage on Twitter at Devious Weasel GM. You can go to the Devious Weasel website, which is deviousweasel.com, and see some stuff about the games there. There's a Facebook page that is updated as infrequently as I can possibly do it. But I think a lot of the stuff, if they're really interested, I contribute a lot of stuff to Board Game Geek on my games pages,
Excuse me.
and I'll write strategies and explanations and respond to all questions there. And I try to keep it very open and very active.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated the extra tips on getting Bemused to the table and good ways to play it. So I think you do a great job of engaging with your games and following up. That's awesome. All right, Kimberly, how about you? By the way, Kimberly. See?
I know, I saw.
Granite
Yeah.
Game Summit.
I said nice
Nice.
boobs earlier. I kept it tame, Bill. I like your shirt, Bill. I am at KJ Revia on Twitter and the Instagrams, as the kids call it. At G2 Summit on Twitter, and tickets are on sale for Granite Game Summit, granitegamesummit.com or bleepkimberly.com, I believe. Also linked.
That's right. That's awesome. Was that Patrick's fault? Did you do that?
That was
Patrick?
me. I did
Good
that.
job.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Dude, I feel so loved. You say one bad word on a show.
That's
More
amazing.
than one, but
Patrick, how about you?
Hey, you can find me over on the What Did You Play This Week podcast.
You forgot the name of the show that you've been
No,
on
we
for
don't know
like
what to
4
call
years?
us anymore. We're not weekly anymore.
Oh, that's right.
But this week we dropped my conversation with Isaac Shalev, where we talked about Granite Game Summit, among other things.
aw, thanks. I haven't listened yet.
Yes, and sous vide cooking.
Ooh,
you wanna give it-
I've been watching that on Twitter.
If
I
you
like
want to
it.
give that a listen, and then our regular show will appear next week.
And he's at Over the Hill here on Twitter.
And I'm at Over the Hill here on Twitter, and that's probably the best place to chat with me.
There you go. I have.
Oh, I forgot to turn my lower third on. I just realized that.
That's all right. That's because you barely got into the wire before the show started.
And I'm basically dead.
That's all
I'm
right,
so
yeah.
sorry. The migraine medicine and all the caffeine, and now I'm crashing from the caffeine, and I can't stop yawning. I'm
I hear
sorry.
Well, you only have to hold in there for about 5 more minutes because we have to do a couple quick plugs really fast. Folks, first off, thecubistpodcast.com is the place to go for all of the stuff related to the show. Specifically, you can donate to us through Patreon, or you can buy merch. Please consider one or more of those things. You can also donate to my Extra Life Marathon, which is 7.5 days away. That starts 10 a.m. on Halloween. I will be doing 24 hours of straight gaming in order to raise money for Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. You can go to billcoreyjr.com if you want to donate. Every $25 you donate is going to be an entry for a prize of some variety. We're giving away copies of Codename Oracle from Wishing Tree Games. We've got a copy of Quests of Valeria from Punchboard Media, which, by the way, we are a proud member of Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table.
To the table.
Brandon's not here.
Good at this, guys. We should try that again.
Hey,
where
Bill,
we
can I
bring something to the table.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to do that at Unison thing. Can you what?
Can I donate some games to your giveaway list?
I would love for you to do that. That would be wonderful.
I'll be happy to.
Go ahead and shoot me an email. Yeah, you heard it here first. See, you can win some of Jim's awesome stuff too. That would be great. Yeah, so we're going to be doing that. That is, by the way, for those of you that I've been talking about the live stream a lot, or about the marathon, that entire thing is going to be live streamed on this channel. All 24 hours of it.
I'll be awake the whole time watching.
You are lying.
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, I will. I will, however, be awake the entire time. The first 12 hours are going to be at my physical game table playing games with various people here at my house, and then the second 12 hours are going to be online with people, some of whom will have actually responded to the scheduling thing that I sent out. I'm just throwing that out there.
But we'll show up nonetheless.
There you go. So we're gonna play games online, probably some video games, party stuff, some actual board gamey bits, a little bit of everything.
I have video games. Oh, I could play Keep Talking and No One Explodes.
Yes, we're gonna play Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes for sure.
Can I bring a cute tall boy?
I want to play that.
Well, you'll have to make sure that you'll be on for that. I will be the bomb diffuser, by the way, and you all will be the people reading the book because I already own the game.
Yes. Right.
That way you don't have to spend money. So anyway, that's going to be Halloween, October 31st at 10 a.m. Central Time until November 1st, 10 a.m. Central Time. We're going to go 24 hours straight. The entire thing will be streamed here. So if you want to donate money, I'm going to start putting up goals. So starting at $500, every $100 I get from 500 on will be a new costume that I will wear for part of the live stream. I've got a lineup.
I will wear a costume if it helps you raise money.
All right, so there you go. One costume unlocked per $100 as soon as we pass 500. So get on it, folks. Bill Corey Jr. We need.
I have my Kayla's costume ready.
There you go. That's one. All right, so
Patrick will play games in only a Pikachu hat.
If we break $5,000,
right over there,
naked. There you go.
Okay.
Patrick will play games in only a hat.
In only a hat.
It's really not difficult at all.
Where will he be wearing the hat?
There you go.
It could be strategically placed.
Exactly.
The worst.
So I know that it feels like I do a lot of ads, but I really appreciate everybody's support and encouragement. I've never done an Extra Life Marathon before, and I'm kind of terrified that I'm going to be an idiot. Oh, and by the way, people watching the show, the marathon will not be PG.
Thank you.
I'm just throwing that out there right now. If this is, I am not going to make any promises about the marathon. And Daniel, our podcast producer, is currently in the chat. Daniel, you don't have to audio podcast or edit anything. But you get the day off on that one. So it's going to be terrible, but it'll be awesome. So let's raise money for Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, folks. It's going to be great. Thank you, Jim, for joining us. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I cannot wait to see this next game. This sounds super fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing more coming from your.
Do you want a preview of some of the cards?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How do I screen share?
You can show it.
How do you screen share?
Oh,
yeah.
Hold it over the window.
Camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's
no. They're on my screen. What do I do?
Okay, so there's a green
screen
with an arrow. There you go. That one.
You see it?
Not yet. I see your face still, which is lovely.
How about now?
It's still your face. Yes.
Damn it! I'm showing it on my screen.
That's all right, buddy.
Wait, oh, yeah, I didn't put the share button. There we go.
Oh, there you go. That one.
There you go. Probably.
Oh, there you go.
we almost-
That's
no,
really
no,
nice. Hold
Jim's
on,
got
hold
it.
on. Let me
No,
present to
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
here.
Bill, present
Everybody
them.
can see it. Hold on, calm down.
Kimberly.
Just
Ooh,
go
look
like
at
I did
those.
when Patrick was naked and I accidentally showed him the whole show.
Stop it.
I got to tell you, I love
Once.
this art again.
Once.
Can you see those?
Yes, yes.
House
they-
Balustrade, House
Yes, it's beautiful.
Cosa, House Cardoza.
That's gorgeous. Very cool. Very cool.
So you've
I like
seen
this.
them
You
here
saw it here first?
The icons will be changing, but that's basically the gist of it.
That's very,
It's very pretty. Mhm.
Thank you.
very
Oh,
cool.
I gotta stop now. How do I stop?
You better hope it's not like porn on your other screens, Jim. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
That's all right.
Cancel.
If it
Hey,
makes you feel any
Daniel
better,
says that's
I don't
some
know
good
how to
art.
have you stop presenting either. So there you go.
I don't know.
All right, ladies and
It's not my
gentlemen,
fault.
have a great night, and we will catch you all again next week. Have a great week, gaming. Take it easy, folks.
Thanks, everybody. Have a
Bye.
great night.
Bye.